At the core of every man lies a deep, ancient longing, the need to stand tall at the center of his own life with clarity, purpose, and calm authority. This longing is not merely personal, it is archetypal. It speaks to the forgotten energy of the king, the central pillar of mature masculinity. He is not a tyrant, nor a ruler obsessed with control, but a sovereign presence who blesses, stabilizes, and gives life. In myths, stories, and ancient traditions, the king is more than a figure of power. He is the axis mundi, the world's spiritual and emotional center. In the psyche, the king serves the same function. When a man connects with this archetype, he becomes a centered force, radiating stability, not just to himself but to everyone around him. But when the king energy is absent, distorted, or wounded, chaos ensues, both in the inner world and the outer one. This absence is not rare in the modern era. Many men today grow up without strong, grounded, male role models. The cultural structures that once guided young boys into manhood, rituals, mentorship, rites of passage, have largely disappeared. In their place, we find confusion, imitation, and often a hollow performance of what it means to be a man. The result is a generation of men stuck in boy psychology, always seeking validation, unsure of their own authority, or falling into power games that conceal deep insecurity. The king archetype represents the mature masculine in its fullness. It is not loud or domineering. It is grounded. It sees far and wide. It listens before it speaks. It blesses rather than controls. It brings order, not chaos. And perhaps most importantly, it holds space. This capacity to hold space for others, for oneself, for discomfort, for growth, is what distinguishes the king from the wounded boy pretending to be a man. In ancient traditions, the king did not rule for himself. He ruled for the realm, his people, his land, the order of things. His personal desires were secondary to his role as steward and guardian. His power came not from dominance, but from alignment, with justice, with the sacred, with the rhythm of life itself. In psychological terms, the king archetype functions as the integrative center of the male psyche. When the king is on the throne, the other archetypes, the warrior, magician, and lover, are able to function in healthy, balanced ways. But when the king is absent, the psyche fractures. The warrior becomes a destroyer. The magician becomes a manipulator. The lover becomes lost in chaos. Without the king to orchestrate their energies, the archetypes fall into shadow. This is why the restoration of the king energy is not just personal, it is collective, cultural, and urgent. We are living through a global crisis of masculinity. The old models of domination, aggression, and emotional suppression are collapsing, but we have not yet built new ones to replace them. Many men feel adrift, overwhelmed, reactive, and hungry for meaning. The modern man is often surrounded by noise but lacks inner silence. He performs, he competes, he accumulates, but rarely does he pause to ask, who am I when the performance ends? What is the center I'm meant to return to? What or whom do I truly serve? In the absence of this centeredness, we see the rise of two destructive patterns, the tyrant and the weakling, the shadow sides of the king archetype. The tyrant emerges when the king energy is corrupted. This man craves control not to serve, but to dominate. He cannot tolerate disagreement. He suppresses, shames, and punishes those around him, especially those who threaten his fragile sense of authority. The tyrant is not powerful. He's terrified of being exposed as weak. His rage is a mask for his insecurity. On the other side lies the weakling king, a man who avoids responsibility, shrinks from leadership, and seeks approval at all costs. He may seem kind or agreeable, but he lacks a spine. He is unable to set boundaries, make decisions, or hold his ground. Instead of holding his throne, he abandons it, letting others dictate the rules of his life. Both the tyrant and the weakling are distortions of true sovereignty. They reflect a world where power has been confused with ego, and where masculinity is either weaponized or erased. What we need, individually and collectively, is the return of the king. Not the king of fairy tales, nor the king of conquest, but the king of integration, balance, and blessing. This king is not a fantasy. He is a potential, a deep inner blueprint that every man can activate, regardless of age, background, or life experience. Reconnecting with the king archetype begins not with external power, but with inner presence. It requires us to slow down, to listen, to reflect, to honor what is sacred in our lives, and to stand for it with dignity. This inner king energy gives a man the capacity to say, I will protect what matters. I will not be ruled by fear. I will bless others with my attention, not demand theirs. I will lead not for my glory, but for the good of the whole. Men who embody this energy bring peace into rooms without saying a word. They do not need to dominate. Their presence is enough. They serve as fathers, mentors, artists, builders, visionaries. They cultivate what is good, prune what is unhealthy, and anchor the world in times of confusion. Of course, no man perfectly lives in his king energy all the time. But even a glimpse of it, through meditation, through deep work, through service, can remind us of what is possible. And with each return to that inner throne, we build a new reality, not just for ourselves, but for everyone in our orbit. In a time of social fragmentation and spiritual drought, the king archetype offers us a different model of leadership, one rooted in care, clarity, and courage. It is not a return to patriarchy, but a maturation of the masculine. Not the rule of boys playing at power, but the presence of men anchored in purpose. As Carl Jung taught, the goal is not perfection, but wholeness. The king does not banish his shadow, he integrates it. He learns from it. He stands in the center, not as a god, but as a man who knows his limits, honors his gifts, and walks forward with grace. The throne is not outside of you, it is within. And when you reclaim it, you do not become above others. You become a blessing to art. When the king within a man is seated firmly on his throne, he does not rule alone. Surrounding him are three essential energies, each a mature masculine archetype that brings a specific kind of power to life. Together, they form a triad of inner forces: the warrior, the magician, and the lover. These archetypes are not abstract ideas. They are lived realities, patterns of energy and consciousness that, when properly integrated, allow a man to act with strength, insight, and passion. But like all powerful energies, they come with a warning. If not integrated properly, they turn into shadows, dangerous and self-destructive distortions of their true nature. And so, to access their gifts, we must also face their dangers. The warrior, decisive, disciplined, and devoted. The warrior is the most action-oriented of all the masculine archetypes. He is pure focus, deliberate effort, strategic movement. Where the king is rooted, the warrior is in motion. He does not overthink, he acts. But his action is not chaotic or impulsive. It is clear, calculated, and aligned with purpose. Unlike the immature hero, who seeks glory and recognition, the mature warrior has no illusions about himself. He knows his limits. He knows pain. He has bled. He understands that courage is not the absence of fear. It is action in the face of it. In ancient Japan, the samurai lived by Bushido, the way of the warrior. They were taught that there was only one stance from which to face life's battles: head on. There was only one direction worth taking: forward. Death was not an enemy. It was a companion. By acknowledging the inevitability of death, the warrior became fearless, capable of acting with finality and force. A true warrior does not waste energy on bravado. His movements are efficient, his emotions contained, his loyalty unwavering. His discipline is internal first. He conquers the battlefield of his own mind before entering the world's. His strength is not merely physical, it is spiritual. Each act is performed as though it might be his last, and thus it carries weight. But even the warrior has a shadow. The active shadow is the sadist, a man who has disconnected from empathy and uses his strength to inflict harm. He becomes addicted to domination, disguising cruelty as toughness and aggression as leadership. Such men often become the very tyrants they once vowed to fight. They fear vulnerability, equate tenderness with weakness, and destroy what they cannot control. The passive shadow is the masochist, a man who endures too much, for too long, without boundary or protest. He internalizes abuse, turns warrior energy against himself, and eventually explodes in destructive ways, emotionally or physically. His energy is collapsed, and yet it smolders beneath the surface, waiting for an outlet. Today's world often rewards the shadow warrior. Workaholism, hyperproductivity, emotional numbness. These are seen as signs of success. But beneath the surface, many of these men are hollow, burnt out, and deeply disconnected. They use achievement as anesthesia, avoiding the deeper work of inner integration. The balanced warrior, however, channels his energy with wisdom. He fights not for ego, but for values. His discipline does not kill his emotions. It holds space for them. He is not cold. He is clear. He can love fiercely and fight fiercely, and he knows which to choose and when. The world does not need more fighters. It needs conscious warriors, those who protect without control, who build without dominating, and who know that the strongest sword is the one that stays sheathed until it's truly needed. The magician, the knower, the seer, the initiator. While the warrior takes action in the visible world, the magician operates behind the veil. He is the archetype of insight, knowledge, and transformation. In ancient courts, the king had a sorcerer or advisor, a man who understood symbols, omens, emotions, and unseen dynamics. He was not there to fight, but to illuminate, to see into the unseen and guide the ruler toward clarity. In the psyche, the magician is the inner analyst, the part of us that reflects, discerns, and transforms inner chaos into meaning. He understands the sacredness of symbols, the importance of ritual, the power of silence. He is not afraid of darkness because he knows how to work with it. But this sacred knowledge comes with a price. True initiation into the magician energy requires suffering, patience, and solitude. In tribal societies, shamans were initiated through illness, exile, or near-death experiences. This was not punishment. It was preparation. Only those who had faced the depths could be trusted to lead others through them. In modern life, magician energy is accessed through therapy, mentorship, contemplation, creativity, and disciplined inner work. It is the part of a man that sits with a journal, reflects on dreams, or speaks wisdom into a conversation when others only see confusion. Yet, like the warrior, the magician has shadows. The active shadow is the manipulator, a man who uses knowledge to control rather than enlighten. He withholds truth, gaslights others, and positions himself as indispensable. He becomes the guru who thrives on dependency, subtly punishing those who seek freedom. His power is not in service, but in seduction. The passive shadow is the naive one, a man who wants the status of the magician, but fears the responsibility. He dabbles in spiritual ideas, but avoids real depth. He quotes ancient wisdom, but has not lived it. He resents those who are more skilled or more integrated, and fears being found out. To access the magician in fullness, one must surrender the ego's desire for control and embrace humble stewardship of truth. A man aligned with this archetype speaks with precision, listens with care, and knows when to guide and when to step back. He does not rush to offer answers. He holds space for emergence. The lover, the aliveness that animates it. All at the heart of all archetypes is one that breathes fire into the rest, the lover. He is the archetype of connection, passion, sensuality, and deep engagement with life. He is not just about romantic love, though that is one of his many expressions. He is the part of us that weeps at beauty, that aches for meaning, that loses track of time in music, nature, or touch. The lover is the energy that makes life worth living. He is the poet, the mystic, the artist, the sensualist. He sees the world not as a problem to be solved, but as a mystery to be experienced. In ancient Greek philosophy, love was not one thing, but many. Agape, or divine love. Philia, or friendship. Eros, romantic passion. Storge, the affection of family. The lover archetype lives in all these expressions. He is not limited to the erotic. He is the presence that makes everything come alive. Jung viewed this as libido in its full form, not just sexual energy, but life force, hunger, longing, sleep, joy, sadness. All of these are expressions of the lover's realm. But when unintegrated, the lover turns dark. The active shadow is the addicted lover, a man who seeks endless pleasure, never satisfied, always chasing another high. Whether through sex, substances, fantasy, or obsession, he uses sensation to escape himself. He is a slave to his desire, not its master. The passive shadow is the impotent lover, a man who has become numb, disconnected, emotionally flat. He cannot feel joy, cannot cry, cannot engage. His world is grey, his voice monotone, his body heavy. He may appear functional, but inside, he is withering. Both shadows are rooted in disconnection, from the heart, from the body, from the sacred. A healthy lover is not chaotic. He is fully alive, but also rooted. He experiences ecstasy, but knows how to return to center. The lover is essential to balance. Without him, the warrior becomes cruel. The magician becomes cold. The king becomes detached. The lover keeps the masculine human. He reminds us of beauty, softness, tenderness, and vulnerability, not as weaknesses, but as strengths. The integrated masculine, when the king reigns with three allies. When the king, warrior, magician, and lover are in alignment, something powerful happens. A man becomes whole. He acts with strength, sees with wisdom, feels with depth, and leads with love. He is no longer fragmented or reactive. He lives with integrity, presence, and power. But this integration does not happen automatically. It takes work, inner work. It requires honesty, humility, ritual, reflection, courage, and mentorship. It demands we look at our wounds, our shadows, and our longing, not to judge them, but to reclaim their power. As we step more fully into this integration, we become the kind of men the world is quietly aching for: present, grounded, passionate, discerning. We don't have to be perfect. We just have to be real and willing to grow. The triple fire of the warrior, magician, and lover burns not to destroy but to transform. The journey toward mature masculinity is not simply about cultivating the positive qualities of the king, warrior, magician, and lover. It is also about facing and integrating their shadow aspects, those hidden, rejected parts of ourselves that operate unconsciously and often sabotage our best intentions. In Jungian psychology, the shadow is not an enemy to be defeated or cast away, but a hidden treasure waiting to be discovered. It holds the raw energy, creativity, and wisdom that have been suppressed out of fear, shame, or social conditioning. Only by bringing this darkness into the light of consciousness can true transformation occur. The shadow, the unseen power, within every archetype carries its shadow, the inverse or distortion of its essential energy. The king's shadow manifests as the tyrant or the weakling, ruling either through fear and oppression or through passivity and indecision. The warrior's shadow is the sadist or masochist, as we explored before. The magician's shadow appears as the manipulator or the naive one. The lover's shadow emerges as the addicted lover or the impotent lover. These shadows can trap us in destructive patterns, cycles of domination and submission, control and helplessness, excess and numbness. The shadows thrive in secrecy and denial, draining vitality and causing inner conflict. Active imagination, dialogue with the inner world. One of the most powerful tools for integrating shadow archetypes is active imagination, a technique developed by Jung and his followers. It involves engaging in a conscious, deliberate dialogue with the different inner figures, whether positive or negative. Instead of suppressing or fearing these voices, the individual invites them into awareness. Imagine sitting down with your inner warrior or your shadow sadist, not as enemies, but as parts of yourself that have something to say. Through visualization, journaling, or even role-playing, you give these figures a voice. You listen, you validate their feelings and acknowledge their needs. This process often reveals the roots of inner conflicts and brings repressed energies to the surface in a safe, contained way. Over time, the figures that once acted as tormentors can become lifelong allies, their energy redirected and transformed. For example, a man who feared his anger might find that his inner warrior is actually a protector, standing guard over his vulnerability. Or a man overwhelmed by emotions might discover his inner magician, who helps him observe feelings without being swept away. Invocation. Calling forth the archetypes. Another technique closely related to active imagination is invocation, the conscious calling forth of archetypal energies to embody their highest qualities. Unlike dialogue, which involves conversation with existing inner figures, both light and shadow, invocation is an act of calling in the mature king, warrior, magician, or lover. This can be done through meditation, visualization, ritual, or creative expression. Some find it helpful to collect images, paintings, statues, photographs that represent the archetypes and focus on them in a state of relaxed attention. By doing so, the ego steps aside momentarily, allowing the archetypal energy to fill the space. The experience can bring insight, inspiration, and renewed strength. It reminds us that these qualities are not something we need to manufacture or fake. They already reside deep within. Acting, as if, embodying the archetypes in daily life. Perhaps the simplest yet most powerful way to integrate these energies is to act as if you already embody their qualities. This approach borrows from theatre and psychology alike. By stepping into the role fully, the psyche begins to accept it as truth. If you want to access the king, practice calm leadership, fairness, and benevolence in small daily decisions. To summon the warrior, start your day with courageous action, tackling tasks with discipline and focus. When calling on the magician, spend time in reflection, study, or creative pursuits, sharing your insights humbly. To awaken the lover, allow yourself to appreciate beauty, a sunset, music, touch, even if at first it feels unfamiliar or forced. These small practices gradually reshape internal patterns and create new neural pathways. The archetypes become habits of being, not just ideas. The modern crisis, infantilism, and the loss of ritual. Despite the power of these archetypes, many men today live in a cultural environment hostile to their maturation. Modern society often devalues ritual, discipline, and responsibility, replacing them with instant gratification, distraction, and entitlement. This has led to what some psychologists call purarchy, the rule of boys rather than men. Immaturity masquerades as freedom, and emotional avoidance is mistaken for strength. The true enemy is not external, but internal. The unintegrated shadow forms that keep men trapped in patterns of rage, fear, avoidance, or addiction. Without conscious work, these patterns perpetuate generational cycles of pain and dysfunction, but the potential for transformation remains available to all who are willing to face their inner dragons and seek the light. The path. Forward, nurturing, mature, masculine, energy. As we cultivate the mature masculine, we create space for benevolent leadership that protects and nurtures rather than dominates, courageous action grounded in clarity and compassion, wise insight that guides with humility, passionate engagement that honors connection and aliveness. Each man's journey is unique, but these energies are universal. By learning to recognize, honor, and integrate our archetypes and their shadows, we become more whole, and in doing so, help the world become more whole as well. As we come to the final part of this exploration into the mature masculine archetypes, it is vital to understand that the journey does not end with individual growth alone. Mature masculinity is not merely a personal achievement or a psychological milestone. It is a call to service in a world often marked by confusion, fragmentation, and suffering. The mature man is one who, having integrated the energies of the king, warrior, magician, and lover, stands as a beacon of light for others. This is not a position of dominance or superiority, but of responsibility, compassion, and grounded leadership. The crisis of modern masculinity and its global impact. Our modern era has witnessed a crisis in masculinity. Social norms have shifted rapidly, roles have become unclear, and traditional rites of passage have largely disappeared. This vacuum has left many men adrift, searching for meaning amid conflicting cultural messages and internal struggles. The dominance of purarchy, the rule of boys, reflects not just immaturity, but also a failure to access the deeper, responsible aspects of manhood. Immaturity manifests as narcissism, entitlement, emotional repression, and sometimes violence. At the same time, the shadow forms of these archetypes wreak havoc in individual lives and society. Tyrants rule through fear, warriors become sadists, magicians manipulate for personal gain, and lovers become addicts. This leads to a toxic cycle of abuse and alienation, not only between men and women, but within communities and families. Reclaiming ritual and structure. One of the most effective ways to counteract this cultural and psychological crisis is by reclaiming ritual and structure. Ancient societies recognized the importance of rites of passage. Ceremonies that marked the transition from boyhood to manhood, imparted wisdom, and created a sense of belonging and purpose. Today, many men lack these meaningful transitions. Instead, society often offers fragmented, superficial markers of success, wealth, fame, or physical prowess, none of which alone create a grounded, mature man. Reintroducing rituals, whether through traditional practices, spiritual ceremonies, mentorship programs, or personal disciplines, can help men reconnect with the archetypal energies within. Ritual provides containment for transformation, a sacred space where inner work can occur safely and powerfully. The 4 pillars of mature masculinity in action. The mature masculine does not live isolated, but in relationship to others and the world. His archetypal energies manifest in 4 key areas. 1. The benevolent king, leadership and order. The king brings structure, order, and justice. He is a leader who protects the vulnerable, nurtures growth, and governs with fairness. In families, workplaces, and communities, This energy fosters harmony and ensures that power is used responsibly. True leadership requires humility, empathy, and the willingness to serve. The king does not seek control for its own sake, but wields power as a sacred trust. 2. The courageous warrior, action and protection. The warrior is the force of courage and discipline. He confronts challenges head-on, defends boundaries, and acts decisively to bring about necessary change. This energy protects not only physical safety, but also emotional and spiritual integrity. The mature warrior does not fight for personal ego, but for causes greater than himself: justice, freedom, and the welfare of others. 3. The wise magician, insight and transformation. The magician is the keeper of knowledge, wisdom, and insight. He sees beneath surface appearances, understands cause and effect, and facilitates transformation. This energy supports growth through teaching, healing, and guiding others toward awareness. The mature magician is a bridge between the known and the unknown, the rational and the mystical, helping to navigate the complexities of life with clarity. 4. The passionate lover, connection and vitality. The lover animates life with passion, creativity, and empathy. He connects deeply with others and the world, embracing beauty, joy, and even suffering. This energy fuels the zest for life and sustains emotional intimacy. The mature lover brings softness and warmth to the other archetypes, ensuring that power and action remain humane and connected to love. Shadow. Integration as an ongoing process. Integration of the shadow is not a one-time event, but a lifelong process. The shadow continually reveals itself in new ways, often when least expected. Mature masculinity requires vigilance and self-awareness to recognize when shadow aspects emerge and to consciously choose growth over reaction. Some days may feel like a struggle against inner darkness. Moments of doubt, fear, or anger can surface. The mature man welcomes these moments as opportunities to practice compassion toward himself and others. This ongoing dance between light and shadow is the essence of authentic maturity. The ability to hold complexity without fragmentation, to embody strength without rigidity, and to love without losing oneself. The role of mentorship and community. No man is an island. The journey into mature masculinity is deeply enhanced by mentorship and community. Older men who have walked the path can offer guidance, wisdom, and support to younger men. Communities that honor masculine rights, values, and vulnerabilities create fertile ground for growth. Mentorship is not about enforcing conformity, but about holding space for transformation, modeling integrity, and encouraging responsibility. Masculine and feminine balance. Beyond binary. Mature masculinity also involves an awareness of the interdependence between masculine and feminine energies within every individual and society. These energies are not rigidly tied to gender, but represent complementary principles: strength and receptivity, action and intuition, structure and fluidity. Healthy men cultivate their feminine side, emotional openness, empathy, and nurturing, just as healthy women cultivate their masculine side, boundaries, assertiveness, and clarity. This balance fosters wholeness and counters polarizations that fuel conflict and misunderstanding. The call to action: becoming a beacon of light. In a world facing environmental crises, social upheaval, and spiritual disconnection, the need for mature masculine energy has never been greater. Men who embody the archetypes with balance and integrity become beacons of light, inspiring others to rise and contribute. Such men do not seek to dominate, but to serve the greater good, whether through family, career, activism, or spiritual practice. The mature masculine is a force for healing wounds of the past, healing fractured communities, and healing the relationship between humanity and the planet. Closing reflections. The path of the mature man. To embrace mature masculinity is to embark on a path that is challenging, demanding, and profoundly rewarding. It requires courage to face one's shadow without denial or judgment, commitment to growth, even when it is uncomfortable, humility to learn from others and from life itself, compassion to care for oneself and all beings, wisdom to know when to act and when to wait, passion to live fully and love deeply. These qualities are not fixed traits, but living, evolving energies within every man. The task is to awaken them, cultivate them, and use them to build a better world. A vision for the future. Imagine a world where men come together in mature brotherhood, not to compete, but to support each other's growth and to work collaboratively toward justice and peace. Imagine leaders who govern with wisdom and compassion, warriors who fight with integrity and restraint, magicians who heal with insight, and lovers who keep the flame of connection alive. This vision is not utopian fantasy, but an achievable future, seeded by the work done in the hearts of individuals today. Final words. The archetypes of the king, warrior, magician, and lover are not relics of the past, but living forces within us all. They guide us toward a life of meaning, purpose, and authenticity. To walk their path is to face life's battles frontally, to move forward with clarity, to transform darkness into light, and to love without reservation. May we all rise to the call, embody these energies fully, and become beacons of light in these dark and chaotic times.